My sister lied and told my fiancé I cheated on him, just to steal him for herself. No one believed me. 7 years later, I'm happily married with kids. Last week, she drunkenly confessed, I lied about everything. I just wanted him for myself. Now she's getting divorced, and my ex is losing his mind, saying, please come back. You are the love of my life. And all I can do is smile. Let me paint you a picture of my life 7 years ago. I, 28F at the time, 35F now, was engaged to the man I thought I'd spend my life with. Let's call him Derek, 29M then, 36M now. We had been together for 4 years, lived together for 2, and had been engaged for almost a year. Our wedding was 6 months away, and I was living in what I genuinely believed was my happy ending. Derek was everything I thought I wanted. Handsome, successful in his career as an architect, charming, and we shared the same dreams about family and our future. Everyone adored him, my parents, our friends, and especially my younger sister, Emma, 24F then, 31F now. Emma and I had always been close growing up, despite the 4-year age gap. She was my maid of honor, involved in all the wedding planning, dress shopping, venue visits, everything. She'd been single for about a year after a messy breakup, and was living temporarily in our spare bedroom while she got back on her feet. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags, but hindsight is 20/20, right? I should mention that Emma had always been the prettier sister according to everyone. Growing up, she was the blonde, blue-eyed cheerleader while I was the brunette bookworm with glasses. She'd always attracted attention effortlessly, while I was more reserved. By the time we were adults, I'd grown comfortable in my own skin, found my style, and honestly, I never felt jealous of her because we were different people with different strengths. But Emma had always measured her worth by the attention she received, especially from men. It started with small things. I'd come home from work to find them laughing together in the kitchen. Emma would casually mention inside jokes they developed while I was gone. She'd cook his favorite meals, claiming she wanted to help out since I was busy with wedding planning and my demanding job as a hospital administrator. I wasn't worried. I trusted Derek completely, and Emma was my sister. The person I'd shared bunk beds with, who I taught to ride a bike, who'd cried on my shoulder through her first heartbreak. You don't suspect your own sister. You don't imagine she'd destroy your life. It was about 4 months before the wedding when everything imploded. I'd been working late nights on a major hospital project. One particular Friday, I came home early, exhausted but looking forward to the weekend with Derek. Instead, I walked into our apartment to find Emma tearfully telling Derek something that made him look like he'd been punched in the stomach. They both froze when they saw me. The look on Derek's face, I'll never forget it. Confusion, anger, and something worse, disgust. Is it true? He demanded, his voice breaking. I had no idea what he was talking about. Emma told me everything, he continued, his voice rising. About you and that doctor from your department. How long have you been sleeping with him? Our whole relationship? Is that why you've been working late these past few months? I was stunned. The accusation was so absurd, so completely fabricated, that for a second I thought it was some kind of twisted joke. There was no affair. There wasn't even a male doctor in my department. I worked with Dr. Lillian Parker, a 58-year-old woman who had been my mentor since I started at the hospital. What are you talking about? I asked, genuinely confused. There's no one else, Derek. I've never cheated on you. I looked at Emma, expecting her to clarify whatever misunderstanding had occurred. Instead, she avoided my eyes, tears streaming down her face. I saw them, Derek, she said softly. In her office last week when I brought her lunch. She didn't know I was there. And then. The text messages I found on her phone when she left it unlocked. I didn't want to tell you, but you deserve to know the truth. I was speechless. Every word was a lie. I hadn't seen Emma in weeks, let alone had her bring me lunch. And my phone? I never left it unlocked, hospital policy due to patient confidentiality. Show me these messages, I demanded, my voice shaking. I took screenshots and deleted them from your phone, Emma said, her voice trembling with fake remorse. I was trying to protect you at first, but then I realized Derek deserved better. I looked at Derek, expecting him to see through this ridiculous story. We had been together for 4 years. He knew me. Or at least, I thought he did. Derek, she's lying. I don't know why, but none of this is true. Call Dr. Parker right now, she'll tell you I've been working on the new patient intake system with her. There's no male doctor. There's no affair. But Derek wasn't listening. He was already packing a bag. I need some time to think, he said, not meeting my eyes. Think about what? I cried. About complete lies from someone who has no proof because there isn't any? Emma put her hand on Derek's arm. It's okay to be angry, she said soothingly. You have every right to be upset. I watched my sister comfort my fiancé over an affair that never happened, and I felt like I was losing my mind. Get out, I told Emma, my voice deadly calm. Get your things and get out of our apartment. Don't blame Emma for this, Derek snapped. She's just the messenger. If you want to be angry at someone, be angry at yourself. And that's when I knew I'd already lost. Emma had planted her seeds carefully, watering them for months. Whatever she'd been telling him behind my back had taken root so deeply that he couldn't see the truth in front of him. By the next morning, Derek had moved out. Within a week, the wedding was officially cancelled. I was left alone in our apartment, surrounded by bridal magazines and vendor contracts, trying to understand how my life had imploded so completely. The worst part wasn't losing Derek. The worst part was what came next. Emma moved out, claiming she couldn't be around me after what I'd done. 2 weeks later, I learned from a mutual friend that she and Derek had been seen together. Comforting each other, they called it. I was devastated but not surprised. The pieces were finally falling into place. When I tried to explain to our parents what had happened, they were sympathetic but doubtful. Maybe there was a misunderstanding, my mother suggested gently. Emma wouldn't lie about something so serious. Even my closest friends weren't fully convinced. It just seems so unlike Emma, my best friend Jess said. She's always looked up to you. That was the most painful revelation, realizing that no one truly believed me. Emma had always been the emotional, dramatic sister. I was the practical, sometimes stoic one. She cried, I problem solved. And in this situation, her tears were more convincing than my denials. 3 months after my cancelled wedding, Emma and Derek announced they were dating. They had the audacity to claim it just happened and they never meant to hurt anyone. My parents were uncomfortable but accepted it. The heart wants what it wants, my father said with a shrug. I was the villain in their story. The cheating ex-fiancé whose sister and ex found comfort in each other after my betrayal. I stopped attending family events when they were present. I couldn't bear to watch Emma play the role of the supportive sister who just happened to fall in love with my ex. I couldn't stomach Derek's guilty glances, as if I was the one who should be asking for forgiveness. I was alone, betrayed by the 2 people I trusted most, and branded a liar and a cheater. That was my rock bottom. The night after learning about Emma and Derek's relationship, I sat in my empty apartment and made a decision. I would not let them define the rest of my life. I sold the apartment and everything in it. I transferred to a hospital in Chicago, 8 hours away from my hometown of Indianapolis. I cut contact with everyone except my parents, minimal, and 2 close friends who had stood by me. The first year was hard. I went to therapy twice a week, trying to process the betrayal and rebuild my self-worth. I threw myself into my new job, earning a promotion within 10 months. I made new friends, joined a hiking club, and slowly created a life that had nothing to do with my past. I focused on becoming someone stronger than the woman who had been so completely deceived by the people she loved. 2 years after moving to Chicago, I met Michael at a hospital fundraiser. He was a pediatric surgeon with kind eyes and a quiet confidence that drew me in despite my reluctance to date again. Our relationship progressed slowly. My trust issues weren't something I could just sweep under the rug. But Michael was patient, consistent, and honest in a way that gradually helped me heal. After a year of dating, I finally told him the full story about Derek and Emma. I expected disbelief or doubt. I'd become used to not being believed. Instead, Michael held my hand and said, "They didn't deserve you. And they certainly didn't break you." That night, I cried for the first time since everything had happened. Not from sadness, but from relief at being truly seen and believed. We married 2 years later in a small ceremony with only our closest friends and family. Emma and Derek weren't invited, despite my mother's pleas for reconciliation. "She's still your sister," she'd insisted. "No," I replied. "She gave up that role a long time ago." By then, Emma and Derek were engaged themselves. They had the big wedding I'd once planned, in the same venue, with many of the same guests. My parents attended. I did not. Michael and I built a beautiful life together. I was promoted to Director of Hospital Administration. He became Chief of Pediatric Surgery. We bought a gorgeous Victorian house and renovated it together. 3 years into our marriage, our daughter Lily was born, followed by our son James 2 years later. My life became full of love, success, and genuine happiness, everything Emma had tried to steal from me. The irony wasn't lost on me that in trying to take my life, she forced me to build a better one. I maintained minimal contact with my family over the years. Holiday calls, occasional visits when Emma and Derek weren't around. I never saw or spoke to either of them directly. My parents would occasionally mention them, their wedding, their house, their seemingly perfect life. I would listen politely and change the subject. I wasn't bitter anymore. I was too busy being happy. Last month marked 7 years since the day my engagement to Derek ended. 7 years of building a new life, healing old wounds, and finding authentic happiness. My parents were celebrating their 40th anniversary and insisted on having both their daughters present. After much discussion with Michael, I agreed to attend the small family dinner at their home. It would be the first time I'd be in the same room as Emma and Derek since everything had happened. "We don't have to go," Michael assured me. "Your parents will understand." "No," I said. "I'm not avoiding them anymore. They don't have that power over me." We arranged for my aunt to watch the kids and drove the 8 hours back to Indianapolis. I felt strangely calm. 7 years is a long time. I wasn't the same person who had been so utterly destroyed by their betrayal. The dinner was as awkward as expected. Emma looked older than her 31 years, her face tight with what I recognized as unhappiness. Derek barely made eye contact with me, focusing intently on his food. Michael was a steady presence beside me, his hand occasionally squeezing mine under the table. We made it through dinner with forced politeness. My mother was visibly relieved that there were no confrontations. As the evening wound down, my father opened a bottle of expensive champagne for a toast. One glass became 2, then 3, and as the night progressed, Emma drank far more than anyone else. It was nearly midnight when it happened. My parents had gone to bed. Michael was in deep conversation with Derek about some architectural feature of my parents' house, deliberately creating a buffer between us. I was in the kitchen, putting away the last of the dessert plates, when Emma stumbled in, clearly drunk. She leaned against the counter, watching me silently for a long moment. "You've done well for yourself," she finally said, her words slightly slurred. "Perfect husband. Perfect career. Perfect kids. Still living your perfect little life." I didn't respond, continuing to load the dishwasher. "That was supposed to be me," she continued, her voice taking on a bitter edge. "I was supposed to have the perfect life. Not you. Never you." I turned to face her, keeping my expression neutral. "Emma, you're drunk. Go to bed." She laughed, a hollow sound that echoed in the quiet kitchen. "You know what's funny? He never loved me the way he loved you. Not once in 7 years." Something in her tone made me pause. She wasn't looking for a fight. She looked defeated. "I lied about everything," she whispered, tears suddenly streaming down her face. "There was no affair. No doctor. No text messages. I just wanted him for myself." Though I'd known the truth all along, hearing her admit it sent a shock through my system. For 7 years, I'd lived with being the only one who knew what really happened. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. "Because it didn't work," she said, sliding down to sit on the kitchen floor, her back against the cabinets. "We're getting divorced. Found him with his 24-year-old intern last month. Poetic, isn't it?" She laughed bitterly through her tears. I stood frozen, absorbing this information. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to demand back the years I'd spent rebuilding my life because of her lies. But looking at her, drunk, crying on our parents' kitchen floor, her makeup smeared, I felt something unexpected: pity. "You know what the worst part is?" she continued, not waiting for my response. "I knew from the beginning that he wasn't worth it. I was always so jealous of you. You had everything figured out? The career, the perfect relationship. I wanted to prove I could take it all away. That I was better than you. And was it worth it?" I asked quietly. She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed and hollow. 7 wasted years. A marriage built on lies. No career because he wanted me to focus on us. No kids because he wasn't ready. And now he's leaving me for someone younger. So no, it wasn't worth it. I should have felt vindication. Satisfaction. The sweet taste of revenge served cold. Instead, I felt a profound sadness for the relationship we might have had as sisters. "I'm sorry, Emma," I said, meaning it. "Not for you, but for both of us. For what we lost." She stared at me in confusion, clearly expecting anger or gloating. "How can you be so calm? I destroyed your life." I shook my head. "No, you didn't. You changed its direction. There's a difference." I helped her to her feet and guided her to the guest room. As I turned to leave, she grabbed my wrist. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know it doesn't change anything, but I am." I nodded once and left her there. When I returned to the living room, Michael was alone, Derek having gone outside for a phone call. My husband looked at me with concern. "Everything okay? I saw Emma follow you into the kitchen." I sat beside him, leaning into his solid warmth. She confessed. About everything. The lies, the manipulation. All of it. Michael's arm tightened around me. "How do you feel?" I thought about it for a moment. "Free," I finally said. Like the last piece of a puzzle falling into place. The next morning was painfully awkward. Emma wouldn't meet my eyes across the breakfast table. Derek was conspicuously absent, having left early for work, despite it being Sunday. As Michael and I were packing our car to head back to Chicago, Derek's sleek black BMW pulled into the driveway. He approached hesitantly, looking like he hadn't slept. "Can we talk?" he asked, his eyes pleading. "Just for a minute." Michael looked at me questioningly. I nodded, and he squeezed my hand before getting into the driver's seat to give us privacy. Derek and I walked to the end of the driveway, far enough from the house and car for privacy. Emma told me she confessed to you last night, he began, running a hand through his hair. The gesture was so familiar it gave me an odd sense of déjà vu. About the lies. I nodded, saying nothing. I don't expect you to believe me, but I need to say it anyway. I had no idea, he insisted. I truly thought. I was such a fool. Yes, you were, I agreed calmly. But so was I, for trusting both of you. He flinched at that but continued. When she told me about the supposed affair, I was devastated. I couldn't think straight. And then she was there, being so supportive, so understanding. Spare me the details, I interrupted. It doesn't matter anymore. He stared at me for a long moment. You look happy, he said finally. Are you? Happy? I thought about Michael, about our children, about the life we'd built together. Yes, I answered honestly. I am. I made the biggest mistake of my life letting you go, he said, his voice breaking. Believing her over you. These past 7 years have been. He trailed off, swallowing hard. I never stopped loving you. Not really. Please, is there any chance? No, I cut him off firmly. There isn't. We could try again, he pressed desperately. I'll do anything. You're the love of my life. You always have been. 7 years ago, those words would have meant everything to me. Now, they meant nothing. I looked back at our car, where Michael waited patiently. My husband. My partner. The father of my children. The man who had never doubted me, never betrayed me. I turned back to Derek and smiled. Not a smile of malice or triumph, but one of genuine peace. Goodbye, Derek, I said simply, walking away. As we drove out of Indianapolis, Michael glanced over at me. You okay? I watched my childhood home fade in the rearview mirror and felt the last vestiges of my old life fall away. I'm perfect, I replied, meaning it. It's been 3 months since the confession. Emma and Derek's divorce was finalized last week. He moved in with his intern almost immediately. According to my mother, Emma has started therapy and is looking for a job for the first time in years. Derek still calls occasionally. I never answer. My parents are trying to rebuild their relationship with me, finally understanding the magnitude of what happened. It's a slow process, but we're making progress. As for me? I recently received an offer to become the youngest CEO in our hospital network's history. Michael and I are planning a trip to Europe next summer with the kids. Our life continues to flourish. Sometimes I think about how differently things might have turned out if Emma had never told that lie. If Derek had believed in me. If I had stayed in that life. But then I look at my husband cooking dinner while our children giggle at his silly songs. I think about my fulfilling career and the home we've built together. And I realize that sometimes, the worst betrayal can inadvertently lead you to your best life. The revenge isn't in Emma's failed marriage or Derek's regret. It's in my happiness, a happiness they can see but can never touch. And all I can do is smile. Edit, wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for the kind comments and support. To address a few common questions. 1. Yes, my parents know the full truth now. They've apologized profusely for not believing me. 2. No, I don't plan to have any relationship with Emma beyond basic family functions. Some betrayals can be forgiven but not forgotten. 3. I've blocked Derek's number since posting this. You're all right, I don't need that energy in my life. 4. And to the person who asked if this is the plot of a Hallmark movie, lol, no. Just my real life, which sometimes feels like fiction even to me. Thanks again, Reddit. Sharing this story has been surprisingly therapeutic.